This skill is solve problems with branching and repetition. The learning goal for this skill is to look into number flowcharts, reverse number flowcharts, and highest common factors which we've seen before. The success criteria is to design algorithms involving branching and iteration to solve specific classes of mathematical problems. I've gone ahead and grabbed a few examples, only 4 for this one because it's a relatively simple skill. Here we have a flowchart. Now remember, a flowchart is a chart of some sort that starts with a certain number and then a set of operations is applied to it to get a final result. So it's almost like multitasking maths. So in this case, we're going to complete this flowchart by filling in the missing numbers. So we start with 15, and then from 15, the flowchart is telling me to add 8. Now obviously I can work this out within my head, but to show you, you can use your calculator, we get 23. Then from 23, we are going to subtract 3 because it's telling us, okay, to get the next number, we have to subtract 3. This ends up being 20. Then from 20, we are going to add 7 to get 27. In order for you to get this answer correct, you have to make sure that all 3 numbers that you input must be correct. If one of them is incorrect, then the whole question is incorrect. The second question looks at highest common factor of 10 and 25. Remember, highest common factor can also be written as HCF. We'll do a little bit of a revision. In order to find the highest common factor between the two, we have to know how to find factors of 10 and of 25. And a factor is just a number that can be divided into the number of interests. So in this case, 10, we know have the obvious factors of 1 and 10, because 1 can go into 10 and 10 can go into 10. Generally speaking, you will always have factors of 1 and the number itself. But we also know that 2 and 5 go into 10 as well. Because 5 can divide into 10, and you end up being 2, and 2 can divide into 10, you end up being 5. Now these are the only factors that we can have for 10. For 25, we have 1 and 25, and then we also have 5 as well. And there are no other numbers. Now that we found the factors for both of these numbers, what we're looking for is the factors that are in common, but more specifically, the highest out of those that are in common, the highest one. So we know that there are numbers that are in common, specifically 1 and 5, but out of those two, the 5 is the highest common factor. So 5 will be the answer. Okay. Just be aware that when it comes to highest common factor, sometimes, depending on what the numbers are, say for instance, if we were to do 10 and 20, the highest common factor can be one of those numbers that are of interest, because 10 can go into both 10 and 20, and even though it's a number of interest, it's still considered the highest common factor. So in this case, 10 will be a highest common factor. So just be careful for questions that look like that. You can have a repeated HCF of the numbers of interest. Now we get to a bit of a trickier question that says complete this flowchart by working backwards to fill in the missing numbers. So what we're so used to is given a certain number, a starting number, and then going through to get the final result. But in this case, we have the final result already here. Now many students fall into this trap where they think, the way that this is being written out is just back to front, and I'll just still apply the relevant rules. So 25 minus 10 to get 15, and then 15 plus 5. No, this is incorrect. We need to know what number you have to put into here that when you subtract 10 will give me 25. And then once we found that number, we also then have to find what number we get then when 5 is added into it, that gives us this number. So essentially we're working in the backwards manner. And this is really simple because all you need to know is your opposite signs. In other words, the opposite of plus is minus, the opposite of minus is plus, the opposite of multiplication is divide, and the opposite of divide is multiplication. And what does this mean? Why are we going to use this? This will just help us determine, okay, if some number minus 10 gives us 25, let's apply the opposite of minus, which is plus. So to backtrack, let's just add 10. Let's just add 10. So 25 plus 10 is 35. And that makes sense, because if we get 35 and subtract 10, we're back at the same position that we were in the first place. This is 25. So we're going to use what's called opposite operations. We have a plus 5, all right? So some number that when 5 is added onto it will give me 35. Well, let's find the opposite of plus, which is minus, and so let's minus 5. So 35 minus 5 is 30. And again, this makes sense because 30 plus 5 gives me 35. Last one, some number take away 3 has to be 30. Let's get the opposite, and let's plus 3, and we get 33. Now this number sequence makes sense. 33 minus 3 is 30, plus 5 is 35, take away 10, 25. And we're in the same position with the last number that we were in the first place by starting with 33. And the last type of example questions you will get is to complete the flowchart by inserting the number that will make the diagram true. And this is just kind of like any other type of flowchart. The only thing that's different is that there are no middle numbers right here. But that's okay, because all you need to do is just fill out this one number, and we can still do this. We just need to figure out what this number is first, and then we can go to the next sequence. So we start with 8, we're going to add 11, and then we end up with the number 19. And from 19, we're going to add 7 and end up with the number 26. Okay. Ideally, what you can do, apologies, that was just an announcement then. Ideally, what you can do is you can see this plus 11 and plus 7, and that's just the same as plusing 18, isn't it? Because 11 plus 7 is 18. So we can just go 8 plus 18 and jump straight to 26 without having to write 19 there. But if you want to play it safe and you want to just get that middle step, get to 19 and then go to 26 to make sure you get that final answer as correct, you can go ahead and do that as well. And this concludes this skill. Go ahead and attempt it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.